What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. We got some new inflation numbers that are out here. And well, this is what the government is telling us. We'll talk about what is these numbers that are out here. And first, let me give you the data. I'll show you this data here. And the well, let's show you the data here, and then we'll talk about it. And then you guys can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, because I have a feeling here what I'm going to see here in the comments, and we'll go from there. So here, take a listen here to some of the data here. Here we go.
We're back with some breaking economic data.
That's right. Inflation cooled to 3% in June over the year and 0.2% on the month. Well, here to help us make sense of all this, we have NBC News business and data reporter Brian Chung at the Big Board and Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver here at the desk with us. Good morning to you both. As always, we appreciate you on a morning like this. Brian, I'll start with you to just walk us through these numbers. Sounds like a little bit of good news. How does this compare to the previous month?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. Good morning, Joe. The numbers are certainly encouraging when we see that the pace of price inflation is declining. So as you mentioned, 3%, that's how much prices rose between June of 2023 and June of 2022. That's a slower pace than the 4% that we had seen between May of this year and May of last year. But I want to point out, we're a year out from essentially what was peak inflation. So in June of 2022, the rate of inflation to June 2021 was 9.1%. Wow. So really, that shows quite a far fall, although I want to point out, this is still a positive number. So prices are still rising. They're just rising at a slower pace, which is encouraging news.
Caleb, let's get your reaction to this. 3%, is that surprising?
Yeah, well, we were expecting around that number. We came really close to a 2% handle on this number, which shows the impact of all those rate increases by the Federal Reserve. They're working. We're also looking at real average hourly earnings. Comes out at the same time as the CPI report. The Fed's watching this too. That only climbed 0.2% last month, slower than prior months. So prices are coming down for consumers. Wages are slowing. Two things the Fed wants to see happen.
Brian, tell us also what specific categories are we seeing the biggest changes in?
Yeah, well, for this rate of inflation to go down, you're going to have to see some, slowing price increases in certain categories. And in the month, we did see it specifically in areas like food, for example. So it was a 0.2%. These are monthly changes, increase between April and May. Between May and June, it went up by 0.1%. And interestingly, food at home actually essentially went flatline. It's really food away from home dining out that got a little bit more expensive. Now, energy, we saw a decline between April and May because of gas prices going down. It didn't necessarily decline further, but it only went up by 0.6% between May and June. And I want to point out shelter. This is the most expensive thing for most budgets, right? It's the largest share, rent, mortgage payments. It went up by 0.6% between April and May, and it went up by a slower pace of 0.4% between May and June. And this is a big deal for a lot of American families because maybe this shows that the bleed through of higher rents and higher mortgage payments is starting to slow. We'll have to see whether or not that trend continues in the months to come.
And those high rents have been such a huge issue over the last year or so. So you mentioned the Fed. What does this probably mean now when they meet again? Are we going to see another interest rate hike? How much longer could it last?
Yeah, the Fed meets in 14 days, 5 hours, and 15 minutes. I'm not counting, you're counting. And they're probably going to raise rates again 0.25%. And this will probably be the last interest rate hike of the year. We may see some rate decreases at the end of the year even. So this may be it, what we call the terminal point of interest rates. We'll probably see that when the Fed meets in a couple of weeks. And that's it. And I think traders and investors have been anticipating this if you've seen the rally in the stock market.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Brian, Mr. Math, put a nice bow on this for us. What does this just mean for everyday Americans managing their bills?
Yeah, really quickly, I want to show you just kind of how far we've come specifically on these household items that a lot of people spend money on. Again, we're a year out from peak inflation. So where are we on categories like these things? Well, $2.71 for a dozen eggs. That has gone down to $2.22 now. And by the way, that was a lot higher in the middle of the year. You recall in the winter, it really spiked to $4 or $5 a dozen in some cases. Gasoline has gone down from $5.15 last year to $3.82 now. So that's encouraging as well for those that are traveling for the summer. Milk also declining. $4.15 last year. Now it's only $3.99. But again, not all categories decline. A loaf of bread actually increased from $1.69 to $1.94. So this is the kind of status of things that a lot of Americans are putting in their baskets a year out from peak inflation. Really important to recognize that, look, food prices is a major reason for why overall headline inflation has come down. But when you strip out those more core measures of inflation, that does remain high. The year-over-year measures actually still quite high.
Yeah, so here's the thing. These headlines are very confusing to people. Inflation slowed to 3% in June, hits the lowest rate in 2 years. People are going to say, oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, maybe on one hand it is. Inflation is down to 3%. But here's where it gets very confusing to people. When people see it's inflation is down to 3%, and that guy in the video said it the best at one point, this still means that prices are up year over year. This means that overall prices are still going up from last year by 3%. Okay. So if inflation was at 0%, this would mean that prices have stopped going up. Okay. Now, in that example they gave with the gas, the eggs have gone down because remember we had a massive bird flu and eggs spiked up dramatically. And finally, they're coming back down to somewhat normal prices. So eggs were kind of an anomaly. Same thing with gas. We kind of seen gas, gas gas was kind of an anomaly as well. We've seen gas prices go way down when the country kind of closed during the pandemic. And a lot of people reference that. When Trump was president, gas was down to $1 or some during the pandemic. But that really wasn't the normal price. If you reference what gas prices was when Trump was, president before the country closed down, you look at the normal price of gas. When the country closed down during the pandemic, that's really not like the normal price of gas because, when nobody was going to work or, a lot of people weren't going to work when the country was, closed during the pandemic, right? That was kind of an anomaly, right? Now we're kind of back to like normal prices on gas right now. They reference that $5 per gallon gas. God help us. We don't want to go there as an average for the country. I know that maybe in California and some places that might be an average, right? But not for Midtown USA, right? Main Street USA. We don't want to be there as an average. Lord help us if we get there, right? OPEC, Saudi Arabia and Russia, OPEC Plus are trying to force us to get there with their over 3 million barrels per day cut. Yikes. Yeah, they're literally forcing the world. They're trying to raise gas prices across the world. They're trying to break the backs of everybody, including the average everyday man, as if they're not billionaires enough. I know you can't make this stuff up, but the U.S. has been ramping up production. People don't believe this, but I'm a statistics man. I'm a proof man. This is why I'll show you guys this stuff. Here is our gas production from the U.S. Energy Information, U.S. weekly field production of crude oil. I like to show this from time to time. And you can scroll over here, weekly U.S. field production of crude oil. You can see right before the pandemic hit, we were producing 13,000 barrels per day. This is thousands of barrels per day, okay? You can see right before the pandemic hit, when Trump was president, this was the peak. And then while Trump was still president, the pandemic hit. We went all the way down to 10,000 barrels per day. And then ever since then, it started climbing back up. So this is Trump's last day in office. It's like somewhere around here, 10, 11,000 barrels per day. Biden comes into office, and it's been slowly climbing ever since. And now we're up to 12,300. We're getting close to the 13,000. We're getting close to the peak, okay? You can see it's been going up since, Trump's last day or Biden's first day in office. So we're getting close to the peak, but the production has been going up. So we are producing more oil since Biden's first day in office. So the oil production has been going up. I know this might seem crazy to some people, but that the proof is right there in the statistics, right? However, we're battling against OPEC Plus, Russia, Saudi Arabia cutting 3 million barrels per day. So we're producing about 12.3 million barrels per day. If you equate that thousands of barrels per day, that's about 12.3 million barrels. Saudi Arabia and Russia and OPEC Plus, all those countries, they cut 3 million barrels per day. So that's like 30% of our output, or somewhere around there. That's how much they cut alone. So you can see it's pretty dramatic. It's pretty dramatic here. And so even though we don't buy any oil from Russia, okay, remember that we as a country, the oil is, well, the whole world, oil is traded on a global basis, okay? And remember that Congress years ago made it a free market, and it actually reduces the price of oil and gas here in the United States, okay? If we just had only our oil here in the United States, it would probably make it more expensive. It would be like if there was no free market here in the United States and we couldn't get goods from any other country, okay? We probably wouldn't have enough goods just for us if we couldn't buy anything from any other country here in the United States. Like think about all the stuff that we have imported here to the United States. We'd probably be in trouble, okay? Well, same thing with oil, gas, diesel, all this stuff. It's, the gas companies control it. They decide if they're going to import it, export it, keep it here in the United States, and they do all that stuff. They decide it, okay? Congress just declared years ago that it's a free market. Gas companies can decide whether they're going to keep it here in the U.S., trade it out. They decide they could do whatever they want, whatever they decide is the best, most efficient way for them to do whatever they want to do with it, okay? And it is what it is. However, we're no longer buying Russian oil. And in fact, the gas companies actually decided that on their own before Congress decided it. So, like the Hawaii refineries actually stopped buying it and said, we're not buying Russian oil anymore. But because OPEC Plus, Saudi Arabia and Russia and the OPEC Plus countries, all those countries combined that make OPEC, have cut 3 million barrels per day, it's artificially keeping the price of oil and gas and diesel higher than what it should be. If they weren't cutting the production of 3 million barrels per day, which is like a little bit, about 30% of our output here for the whole country, if they were just producing that extra 3 million barrels per day, there would be more supply of oil and gas on the market, and prices would be lower than what they are even now. Yeah, so think about what your gas, go to fill up gas, or your home heating, natural gas, and all that stuff, right? Would just be lower than what it is even now. And I know people are quick to blame the president or whoever, right? But if it weren't for OPEC Plus, Russia, Saudi Arabia, prices would be, I don't know, 20, 30% lower than they are now. Yeah, this is the reality of things happening right now. And no matter who the next president is, OPEC Plus, Saudi Arabia, and Russia are going to constantly be fighting against us. Why? Because it's in their best interests. Even if it's Trump, it really doesn't matter because it's their money. Saudi Arabia, it's their money. They're trying to make their best money. I mean, if Trump's the next president, I mean, he could go talk to him, but in reality, they're trying to make the most money for them and their country, right? I mean, unless there's some money incentive for them. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, but I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country and around the world on a daily basis. So make sure to subscribe down below, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any new videos. Thanks for liking and sharing these videos. Click here to see the Netherlands government just collapsed and the US government has the exact same problem. Or the Fed just warned us that the next new Great Depression is happening or starting right now. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.